All right. I'm just going to do a quick sound check for me. Satsuma has not yet joined the Discord call, so we will wait for the stream to catch up. Chasing Rainbows is here. Bum, bum, bum. All right. Sounds fine. What's going on, people? We got Hazel in the bottom corner, the stream mascot. Satsuma will be joining us very soon. I have 3 hours to perform this interview before I must join Murphy Live. Hello, good sir. Hello.
What's
going on?
How are you?
I am excellent. Chat, it's on you to tell me whether or not Satsuma is quiet or loud. But if I see nothing in the chat about him, I'll assume he is perfect. But he is here now.
I am perfect.
You are perfect, sir. So for anybody who doesn't know Vicioussatsuma, you have won the faction war a couple times with greenskins, I believe, on Turn's channel. Yes?
I think I've won the faction war once and the single faction tournament twice.
Gotcha. And you also, little known fact, starred in 1964's Shrek as Man with Trumpet 2. And that was excellent, by the way.
Thank you very much. It's good to be appreciated for my lesser known roles. So thank you very much.
Yes. Anything you want to say in general before we get on with the questions?
I suppose I should start with a wah. So there we go.
A wah.
Wah.
A proper British wah.
Wah.
All
right.
right.
A posh wah as well.
A posh wah. Well, we're going to start the interview with the same question I've started every single interview with. Best and worst 3 matchups for the Green Boys.
This is really difficult because there's 2 really bad ones and then a few that are basically fine. So VC is the worst. If you're up against a top quality VC player, it's very winnable at lower levels, but it gets really hard when the VC players are strong.
Gotcha.
Lizardman can be one if the builds are right, but the build roulette doesn't really go your way. And third, I'm actually really struggling with that one. So you could say, I think, one of Empire, Dwarves, possibly Beastmen, possibly Coast. I think it would be down to those 4. I'm not quite sure how the Beastman one goes since chariots have changed. But probably one of those. But those are all fine. Like those aren't. Like none of those is a. If it's a bad matchup, it can't be. I'd probably say they're all even, to be honest. So I'm struggling to find like a third properly bad matchup.
Okay.
Good matchups, definitely Dark Elves, and I think I'd also say High Elves is the next one. And then again, I'm really struggling with the third best matchup. Like again, there's a bunch that are like definitely good, but I'm not sure how good. So like Skaven, Chaos, Wood Elves is good, but not. I wouldn't say that's really strongly favoured. And Brett is good, but they have some decent answers. So again, I really struggle to find like a third one that just jumps out at me as this is another great matchup. But like once you get past like 2 amazing matchups, you just have a bunch, like a whole bunch of matchups that are slightly favoured for you, which is quite nice.
Yes.
They're quite a balanced faction, I think, actually. In terms of, it's not necessarily overall strength, but in terms of their matchups not being too many that are very extreme.
Well, that's good. That's what you like in a faction that you want to learn, is that they're not just a hard counter or, you don't want a coin flip faction.
Talking about high elves there.
Yeah. The ambient dog noise is as loud as the guest. Yeah, I put Hazel's bone back on the soft thing, so she's not doing that on the hardwood floor. She's disruptive.
I can turn myself up if that's helpful.
That would be good, sir. I have done everything I can on my end. We normally save this for the end, but the Cathay thing just came out, so I'm going to go right into Game 3. From Jeremy, which Game 3 faction do you think the Greenskins would match up against in a DLC?
I'm not sure. This is all getting into lore, which is not my expertise, but I think I'd like Khorne. They're just like the two badass fighty factions, and I feel like there's a story there to be told of they fight each other, but they also just love it. Like they would love to just get on the battlefield, both just beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be a good little challenge.
I would like if they added Gorfang Rotgut, and then he was versus like Khorne or something, and it's just this the only greenskin that gives a shit about mild intelligence versus Khorne. But I mean, it's still a greenskin we're talking about, so.
Yeah. I always thought Skarsnik is intelligent in his way.
Yeah, but he's already in the game.
Yeah, true.
He's been covered. Okay. Doggo left the room. Goodbye, Doggo, forever. This was a popular question. What is your favorite matchup to play fun-wise? Not favored or disfavored, anything like that, but just when you get into a game, you're like, I could play this 8 or 9 times in a row. This is from Real Human Being and Butcherbird.
I quite like Chaos, actually, because it comes down to infantry micro, which is unusual in the game. So Chaos, basically their Forsaken do well against the greenskin chaff, but get absolutely destroyed by Blorks, whilst Marauder Great Weapons trade very efficiently into Blorks. So actually your infantry positioning and like cycle charging with Forsaken is quite important. And same with the greenskin side. You're always trying to get the correct infantry engagement, which is really nice. I suppose the downside of that matchup is still your skirmish cav micro is very important, because both sides are always going to bring 6 missile cav there. That's just the way that like greenskins, Chaos and Norska tend to play against each other. But I like that matchup. And I think Counts is the other one.
Really?
Counts. Well, like you have to do something a bit surprising. Like you have to get off a nice play in order to win, like a nice snipe, to catch them out. And you can't really lose as greenskins because it's not a favoured matchup, and that's like it's like a rare feeling.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Especially when greenskins were really strong. You just got used to like having a certain pressure when you pick greenskins as a greenskin main of, if I lose, then people are like, oh, how did you lose with greenskins? How could you? It's supposed to be greenskins main and they're supposed to be OP. Whilst if you win, it's like it doesn't count.
OP greenskins win it again.
Yeah.
You brought up both the matchups people asked about, actually, but let's go into the Chaos one since you said it was your favorite. In the Warhammer World Cup time frame, Greenskins versus Chaos was Greenskins favored. Fast forward today with the new bug fix patch, and assuming they also add Cav fixtures of the beta patch, how is that matchup going to be today? That's from Hammond, and it was a mouthful.
I don't think Cav will change it much, because Chaos tend not to rely on their Cav, and in Chaos Knights there's just too much risk of Skirmish Cav killing them, Spirit Leech killing them. The Hammer of Gork probably does decent damage there as well. So I don't think the Cav changes it much. What has changed it a bit in terms of options for Chaos is Fanatics. Because one of the things people did before Fanatics got their buff a while ago was just to take Chosen Great Weapons, because they pretty clearly outtrade Black Orcs due to their better stats. So I think Chaos already have some better options there than they used to have, and it's kind of like a slightly greenskin favoured matchup, but not decisively so.
Gotcha. And why, this is from Hammond again, why is the matchup versus Vampire Counts so bad? Is the Black Orc Big Boss not good in that matchup for the ITP aura? I remember him seeing him a lot when he was announced, but he disappeared. Or is the problem SEMs?
I think Bob was already back then a bit of a mistake, because Grom also gives you ITP, and Grom, is your lord. He's not as expensive in terms of the investment. He is actually more expensive, of course, literally, but he gives you more than Bob does.
Gotcha.
And yeah, he was just always a better pick than Bob in the first place. And then Bob also got more expensive, if I remember correctly. So I don't think he was ever just the solution. I'd say the problem is it is linked to SEMs, and that SEMs here includes black coaches, because it's quite difficult to pin down the counts monsters. Like Vargolfs are pretty quick and they're pretty nice at dodging arrows. So black coaches, Terrorgeist less so these days, but you have enough with black coaches and Vargolfs to cause a lot of problems. And the greenskins' answers to those, they're basically arrows, which counts find it fairly easy to shut down. I mean, even if you can't get into the archer line, the best greenskin archer unit is the rusty arrows by a long way, and that just dies to Scabscrath. And you can just dodge shots for quite a long time.
Orc R boys miss a lot of their shots.
Yeah, they against sort of smaller targets, and coaches are pretty low on the ground. It's pretty tough to really focus down the SEMs, and then they can be healed up. And I mean, the other way that greenskins can try and deal with those things like coaches and Vargolfs is to bring their own monsters, but then you're investing in giants, which really struggle to catch them.
Dude, giants are great. Everybody loves giants.
Yeah. They are like the most efficient SEM in like a one-on-one intensity fight. Or at least one of the most efficient ones. They have really good melee attack, really good damage, but they're also slower than almost every single SEM out there, so they literally have no way of doing the one thing that they're good at unless you invest a hell of a lot into snares.
Oh, there's one SEM slower, and it's on the same roster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that unit doesn't really exist in the...
It's fake. That is a fake unit. Achilles asked in the chat, do you have a plan to help you get to your best focus state? I assume that means for like tournaments?
I'm going to throw that straight back at Achilles and say whether he has a plan to get himself into his best focus state, because I'd like to see that.
Yes.
No, in seriousness, no. There's some basics like don't do a big tournament when you are hungry or sleep deprived or stressing about something else. But I don't find I struggle too much with just with focusing.
Yeah.
I tend to be quite calm and focused anyway.
Oh, good. You were just talking about the Chaos matchup. Zero asked, what Chaos unit is best against greenskins? So what unit do you most have to plan around?
It's a tricky one. So I think they all have their different applications. Like I was saying, I like that mix of Forsaken and Marauder great weapons because you have the Chaff Killer and then the Black Orc counter. But what makes it nice actually is that no one has a unit that's just good into everything on your opponent's roster.
Yes.
So Florks, yes, they crush a lot of things, but they don't trade well into great weapons or marauder great weapons or chosen great weapons. And again, the greenskin chaff will lose against the kind of mid-tier chaos infantry, and actually the chaos warriors do pretty well against biggins as well. So there's a lot of just units that counter one other thing, rather than just, oh, this one unit is good against everything on their roster, deal with that.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I couldn't really recommend one unit to spam, apart from Skirmish Cav, because Skirmish Cav, yeah, it's just a thing in the greenskins, Chaos and Norska matchups. You always bring 6 Skirmish Cav because no one really has a proper counter to it other than their own Skirmish Cav.
Throwing axes or horse masters to fill out, because you can only have 4 horsemen. I
prefer... it depends a bit on your build. I tend to prefer horse masters so that you can melee things. That you can melee their missile cav, you can melee their archers.
50 armor is not bad for skirmish cav.
Yeah, so they're pretty resistant against the greenskin skirmish cav. Also, unless it's like a small map, then it's quite difficult to actually hit with the axes in the skirmish cav war because they travel so slowly.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. For your end of the skirmish cav, do you do the 4 wolf riders, 2 spider riders, or do you have a different usual spread?
I think in that matchup,
because the wolf riders have more models.
I can't even remember. Yeah, they have more models. They do more damage. They are slightly weaker to getting shot by enemy skirmish cav because they have less armor and less HP. Mm-hmm. I'm actually not sure what I do, to be honest. I think both are absolutely fine. Getting a bit more poison on every point on the map is pretty nice because I think I'd probably take 4 spiders just because you won't take many other poison units in that matchup.
Gotcha.
And it's a matchup where kind of just efficiency of fights is quite important.
What are your this is from Butcher Bird. What are your thoughts on the greenskins into lizardman matchup? Bird says they've played it a lot and it doesn't seem super hard, but they know plenty of people that think it's really bad for greenskins.
The way I see it, if the builds go okay or go right for greenskins, then it's absolutely fine. But there's just a lot more ways for the builds to go wrong for the greenskins than there are for lizards. So it's actually a similar thing to what I was saying about counts, which is that you have to cater for lizardmen, SEMs, in particular stegodons. So if they have a couple of stegodons with a little bit of support from pterodons to chase things off, then it's pretty tough for greenskins to deal with that unless they've got specific counters, which is basically either their own monsters or archers combined with a lot of slows or snares. And the reverse of that is that if greenskins bring like a couple of giants and then lizardmen decide not to bring any SEMs, they really struggle.
They being the greenskins in that matchup?
The greenskins really struggle because the giants do nothing.
Gotcha.
And then the rest of your army gets picked apart on the ground. Like, your SEMs can't carry on their own, but the lizardman ones can. Similarly, if you invest a lot into archers, you can get rushed by lizardmen. But if they rush, or if they bring their own ranged units, they never really get punished. Like, you can't get punished for bringing 4 pterodons.
Yeah. Hey, Hammond, good to see you. Cyrus, yeah. Satsuma's as loud as he can be. Good sir. But I'll check.
Never really get punished.
Yeah. I can hear him okay on the stream. I'm trying to keep Hazel away from the squeaky toys. I might have to just put her away soon, but she's been cooped up all day, so I wanted to let her out for a little bit. The last matchup thing for now, then we'll move on to other things. Would you say the greenskin? How would you say the greenskin mirror should be approached from Pugna Bone? Now I watched you fight. Who was it? It was an ODM someone who was playing Azhag versus your Skarsnik in Turn's Legendary Lord tournament. But since then, the Fanatics have been changed. Otherwise, I know how you're going to answer this question.
Yeah, I was going to say it used to be pretty straightforward that it was Savage Orc Biggins, which counters all infantry other than Blorks and counters trolls. And then you protect them from enemy skirmish cav by taking your own 6 skirmish cav and possibly a bunch of basic spider riders. And if they had Blorks, you could counter that with Fanatics. Or if you're really feeling spicy, with like a troll or 2. Since the Fanatic nerf, I think I haven't tested it loads, but I think Black Orcs could be something you have to specifically build against again. In a way that you used to just be able to take a couple of Fanatics and say, okay, that's that strategy dealt with. But I think now, yeah, I can see Blorks coming into the greenskin mirror meta more. But I think a good starting point is still just Grom, Savage Orcs, 6 skirmish cav, like 4 spider riders, a few gobbos, and Savage Orc Biggins. I think that's still a good starting point.
Gotcha. Would Nasty Skulkers do well at all versus Black Orcs?
Possibly, but it's still 500 gold for a unit that is pretty bad into everything that isn't a Black Orc. And
Gotcha.
you never really need to slow greenskins. So I think it's a bit too risky. And if there's big war magic, which again is pretty popular because of Savage Orc Biggins being good here, they will also be really strong against Skulkers because they have terrible HP per model.
Gotcha. Tiago saying read the questions top to bottom like a normal person. I moved them all into a Word doc and then grouped them by what they were talking about so that the interview was cohesive, my dude. All right. We can move on to Lords for a little bit. There was so many about Grom. Let's just knock that shit out of the way first. Did the nerfs on Grom bring him back to being balanced? Like, he's very good, but is he a problem? Or in your opinion, was he ever a problem? That's me and Butcherbird.
So, before the nerfs, he was definitely too strong. And that's just because he didn't have any obvious weaknesses. Like, he couldn't really be sniped, he was maneuverable, he could kill infantry, and he could also duel enemy single entities in prolonged combat. He's now quite a lot worse at sort of that prolonged dueling. He can still do fairly well on the charge against single entities, but he can't just sit there for ages whilst Lucky Banner gives him stupid melee stats due to the nerf on that. So I think his role and sort of the way he behaves is correct. I don't think he has any particularly sort of weird interactions anymore. I still think he's probably the most efficient Lord for most situations on the Greenskin roster. And I think the main reason for that is that all the other Lords, they pay the war tax. So for those who remember, when they got rid of the war being an ability on specific Lords, they added like 150 gold to everyone. And I have a sneaking suspicion that CA never took that into account in Grom's cost. So like there's a bunch of Lords, like, the Night Goblin war boss is surprisingly expensive, and the Orc war boss is surprisingly expensive compared to like the equivalent on other factions, and that's because they pay the war tax.
Yeah. Now, is that what Jay is talking about in these questions, where it's like rant about how much you hate WA? Like, when did the WA change happen that made you hate it?
It was with Grom, and there's one thing about it I like, which is you can no longer reset it with spells like Arcane Unforging being cast on your lord. So in the olden days, it was an ability on your lord, and it only recharged when you were in melee. So what everyone used to do was like fly a caster over your army, and then cast Arcane Unforging on your lord, and then you wouldn't get your war when you first charge into combat. And because a lot of the war is about getting extra charge bonus, and I think it was even more about charge bonus back then,
And
that
you
had a huge effect.
you preferred that system?
What I liked about it, I didn't like the bit that you could reset it with Arcane Unforging. What I really liked about it is that you got one war at the start, because that gave you some choice about when you use it, and it made it very important to coordinate your initial attack. So the way I would like war to be is that it's more about charge bonus than melee attack, and it's about having one really impactful charge where you can choose when you use it. Whilst the current system is more, you click it as soon as you get it. Like you walk all your infantry into combat, and then they fight for a while, and then after a while you get the war, and then you just click it as soon as possible. Well, as soon as something isn't routing, so you can actually click on the icon. But there's no strategy in how you use the war, except I suppose that you always want your goblins to enter into combat first, because they have the highest entity count, and therefore they charge your war much faster than other units do. But there's no real strategy in choosing when you war or in timing it. You just click it when you can. So what I would like is, I like the way it recharges when stuff's in combat, but I would like you to start with one war. I don't care if it's a weaker war, and actually I'd quite like if it was less melee attack buff, bigger charge buff.
Yeah.
But I just like to have a choice about when I use it.
I wish it was damage dealt. Charged it, so like monsters and that kind of stuff could actually charge it up rather than, because it seems so weird to me that like, you know, a couple orc boar boys getting in there and crumping some gits is like, that's okay, and then some goblins losing in melee combat is like, fuck yeah, let's war.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's so weird.
That's fair.
Achilles asked you 2 questions in the chat. What's the longest amount of time you played Warhammer 2 nonstop, and what legendary lord do you most like?
Well, I've never taken a really long break from the game since I first started. Since I first started multiplayer, which was shortly after Warhammer 2 came out. Unless Achilles is asking me what's the longest amount of like hours that I've played it in one go.
I think he means that one.
I don't know.
Okay.
Less than. I don't know. I just get hungry. It probably hasn't been more than like 8 hours in a row or something, if I had to guess.
That's a Skaven thing to say. The black hunger affects us.
The cheese. Hunger for mushrooms.
Oh god, that's cannibalism. The rapid fire through the rest of the Grom thing, since we talked about him a good amount. In what matchups do you not take Grom, Malverde?
Well, one is exciting because I've recently started taking Grimgor against dwarfs.
Ooh.
I know, because he's guaranteed to have an enemy character that he will trade well into, and he does okay damage against like elite dwarf infantry. There's stuff like Ironbreakers to chew through, and he can really kill stuff like engineers, which you see a fair bit at the moment.
Yeah.
And he's just a less riskier pick than Grom. Like, there's no chance that someone's going to try and just like cheese you by taking a bunch of troll hammer torpedoes and slowing runes. So Grimbor's just a fairly safe pick into Dowie. He's not like stupid OP or anything, but he always does fine.
Gotcha.
I think that's all you need from your lord in that matchup. Where else don't I always take Grom? I take Wurzag sort of reasonably often. I quite like him into Dark Elves because Marathi's always good against Grom, and I don't really like trying to take that blob fight against the Dark Elves because that's basically what they want you to do.
Showstealer.
Scholstealer, exactly.
Gotcha.
And actually, there's a couple of other matchups, which is Brett and Lizardman, because the Spider Lord is pretty good in those two.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask, who do you take instead? But there you go, answering that.
No. I sometimes take Wurzag against VC and Wood Elves as well, but I'm not quite sure that's not necessarily correct to do. Wood Elves can snipe Wurzag if they bring the right build, and I feel like Wurzag is good into VC, but you're kind of relying on your opponent making one mistake at some point, which is an okay way to try and win a difficult matchup, but yeah, Grom might still be better there.
Gotcha. And you said there is a question about... There we go. Anyway, Grimgor was not a throw into Dowie. Are there any matchups where he is not just losing you the game? From Bob Tresh and Malverde.
Lizardman. He's okay against Lizardman. He can kind of slap the giants, and he does okay against Temple Guard. And the extra slow that you get on him can be quite nice to make sure that like a Stegodon gets caught in combat with the giant or something.
45% speed is nothing to sneeze at.
No. That's his one good ability, but it's pretty solid. And he has really good like AP and weapon strength. I'd say he's also fine against Empire. Because he does alright against Volkmar. Like that speed debuff is enough to catch him. Where else? I think he's inefficient, but he's not bad into chaos, because a lot of people will take Sigvold, and he really slaps Sigvold.
He does slap Sigvold.
So yeah, I've got sympathy for taking him against chaos. That's probably the only matchups where I think he's really viable.
Gotcha. How well do different magic missiles do versus Grom? That's from Real Human Being. If they're armor piercing, they do generally well, right?
Yeah. That's basically the answer. I think in theory Shems is best, but I'd kind of take issue with the question, which is that I don't think magic missiles are the way to deal with Grom. Like the best way to use magic missiles is usually in a kind of kitey style, where you just have like a 5-minute Lord sniping phase before the main fighting starts. But Grom can just regen through that.
Gotcha.
So I don't think that's the way to deal with him.
Okay. That's fair. I like those times, when you can get an overcasted Shems and it hits him twice because of his chariot, and then you nuke him down to like almost nothing, but that is really hard to replicate consistently, and it's hard to bet. It's hard to bet on a coin flip like that.
Yeah. And I think in a lot of matchups, greenskins can bring something to block the magic missile. So for example, like Hand of the Gods is fantastic against him as well. Yeah. But that's a spell that can miss a lot. And again, with a lot of magic missiles, other than like Fireball, if you just put something like even like a Skirmish Cav in the way, you'll block it.
Or a Rogue Idol.
Greenskins. Yeah. But greenskins usually have Skirmish Cav to chuck in the way of the magic missile.
Should the last two Grom questions I think I see in this whole freaking thing. Should Grom get 40 seconds of ward save like Torux from Dialatron? No.
Just like he regens, Torux doesn't. He gives you ITP in an area. Like Grom doesn't have to be this combat lord that can just stay in a melee engagement for 40 seconds. That's not what chariots are designed for. I don't think that's great.
Gotcha.
That creates great gameplay. I think I know where he's coming from, which is that I'm pretty sure the items cost the same on Taurox and Grom, and Taurox is just has a better item. But you know, Grom doesn't need it. He has other strengths.
24 melee defense, 24 melee attack. Otherwise, they're the same. Duration is 41 seconds on brass body, and
25, I think.
Yeah, but Taurox's only regens in melee, while Grom regens anytime, so it's good in different ways. There is a question in the chat for you. How does a fat goblin on a rickety chariot have 100 armor, but state troopers in plate have 30?
Fat. It's fat armor.
Fat is armor. Okay. Super short digression.
And greenskins really needed someone who wasn't easy to snipe. I think that's the main reason.
That is true, they did.
They just gave him extra armor for gameplay reasons.
Short digression, but I'm slowly getting caught up on My Hero Academia, and there is a superhero in there that his entire power is just being so fat you can't hurt him. So, fat is armor. Facts. All right. Last question about Grom. What lord is the best counter to Grom in the entire game? Chasing Rainbows.
Again, I think I'd take more issue with the question rather than give a straight answer. So there's a bunch of lords that will slap Grom in melee. Basically, AP and good combat stats will get you there. Like, he'll lose to Archaon, Tyrion. He loses to Setcher as well. At least depending on how you use magic, but generally he does. Like, again, Grom is a fast chariot character. If you try and counter him with, like, a combat lord, what will happen is Grom just runs away into his own formation and then, like, charges halfway down to the other side of the battlefield and, like, runs into some infantry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he can always pull through his own units. So you're going to struggle to really pin him down.
Gotcha.
So I don't think, unless you've got a net available, I don't think you should be thinking so much about trying to just fight Grom with one combat lord. I think the more efficient thing to do is focus on killing the rest of the army, and then he'll have to fight you, and hopefully you manage to get yourself in a good position. If you want to snipe him, then I think it's more getting a net and a bunch of armor-piercing missiles. But even that, you have to commit pretty heavily, because obviously he can use his lucky banner to mitigate the damage. I just don't think you need to snipe Grom. Like, his DPS is pretty weak. Like, if you look at the end of most battle screens, if greenskins, if it was a reasonably short game, and unless Grom has gotten a bunch of snipes on enemy characters, he will end the game with, like, you know, less than 1,000 value.
Mm-hmm.
He won't usually pay for himself. He's just really hard to kill. Unless he's managed to catch out some weak characters.
From Bob Tresh, why is Wurzels so fun to play? That would be Wurzag, for anybody not familiar with Bobbies.
Wurzels. I guess there's a few reasons. I think one is you always have to look after him. So Grom is not particularly fun to play because he's very forgiving of mistakes. If you get something wrong, it's fine. Just pop the lucky banner and just run away from that bad situation. Whilst Wurzels, if you get caught out, he just dies and you lose the game. Secondly, great snipe potential if you get the effigy of the git on a good target, so he can be very impactful. And finally, actually, his melee prowess makes him really fun, because he has pretty good melee attack, and on his boar he has good AP, so he can actually snipe isolated characters as part of, like, a little crew, especially if he has a Night Goblin Warboss with him. But at the same time, he's very weak to being sniped if you get a bad engagement. But, like, if you can manage to trap a character and then gang up on him, he can actually for a caster, he can do very well in melee. So yeah, he just has a lot of damage potential and is squishy, and that's always fun.
He's a very weird form of an assassin.
Yeah.
Pugnabone and myself asked, what is your favorite lord to play, not necessarily the best, and what's your favorite unit to play with on the whole roster? I'm guessing Wurzag might be your favorite.
Just answered that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Wurzag's great. Favorite unit? Oh god, that's a difficult one. I think I'd say Squig Hoppers. Again, it's one of those units that's very, very impactful if you manage to get the right usage out of it. It's like I have some builds, for example against Lisbon, where you take like 4 Squig Hoppers and you just charge from all directions, route everything up as soon as possible, cast a good Doom and Darkness, see if you can get some terror routes. Like that, I like that kind of aggressive style where you have to get a good engagement, route something, and then move on. But you're potentially weak in a prolonged melee with squigs. So I think, and they're bouncy. They're space hoppers. We all have space hoppers.
I'm gonna set up this question. Then I have to go put the dog in her kennel because I hear her chewing on the couch, and that's not nice. Why is the Night Goblin Big Boss not used more when he's got both Fermented Fungi and Tormentor's Sword? This is from Blood Penguin and Bird. I'll return in a moment.
I think the reason is just that, yes, he can snare things into fighting him for a very long time, but he doesn't actually want to fight any of those things. So he will lose in melee against almost any of the things that he's able to pin down. And the Tormentor Sword actually doesn't last very long at all. So it doesn't give you that much more utility in terms of netting than Skarsnik does. But with Skarsnik, you actually have someone who can poke the thing that you've just managed to snare. So Tormentor Sword is literally 9 seconds. That it doesn't add that much. What's much more important is having another character who can join in on the goon. I think that the other reason the Night Goblin Warboss is pretty questionable is that he has less than 3k HP and 25 armor. So he's very, very squishy. If he gets into the wrong fight, he will die almost instantly. Whilst, the comparable Lord is Skarsnik, who has like 5k HP.
That is almost double.
Yeah. Well, he's got a pet.
Yeah, Gobla's great.
Yeah, he's a legend.
From Artisan Tech Priest West, why is Gobla the best boy?
Because he has a massive smile. He's just a giant smile on his face all the time. He's just all mouth.
Yeah, he does.
Bless him. I'm pretty sure Skarsnik's a feeder.
Aww, they're so cute. And yeah, the Squig Hoppers are sweet units too.
Yeah, I wish the Squig Herds were good, but they are utter garbage.
I don't think we have any questions about them, but yeah, Squig Herds are just never used.
They're that bad. They're that bad.
Sad days.
Sorry.
Sorry.
They're like Feral Cold ones. If you had a unit that cost 150 gold more than the Feral Cold one and was just much, much better.
Huh. Yeah, they're pretty bad.
As in, you have the comparator of a Squig Hopper, which is just so much stronger than a Squig Herd.
Oh, that's what you meant.
Yeah, as in, it's a very small upgrade in terms of cost, but you get just an infinitely better unit.
But Squig Herds are ITP.
Yeah. They also have 30-something leadership.
Yeah,
36 leadership.
Gotcha. Quick couple meme questions about Grimgor. Should he have a mount option? Would it be good or not needed? And isn't he just a small Cygor? That's from Hammond. Grimgor or mount?
Mount would make him better, definitely, because yeah, it would let him hunt down not just like foot characters, but also like SEMs and horse characters, which would be pretty nice. So I think he'd get used on a boar if he had a boar. I don't think you'd see him on a wyvern, because wyverns are just too expensive for what they give you and pretty squishy, and their hitboxes are too big. What was the other part of that question?
Is he just a small Zygor? That's
no, because he doesn't throw rocks.
Gotcha.
He's like a... What is he?
A giant.
He's a bit like a giant. I think that's the closest thing. He's a bit like a Gotrek.
Jeremy asked, why do you want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry? That's a song lyric. Haha! Hank Cyrus, why does Skarsnik not ride Gobla? Because that would be rude, and he loves Gobla. And then a real question from Wenin is, what's your opinion on Squighoppers plus Grom?
Squighoppers plus Grom?
I don't, I'm not the expert, but do they need it? They have ITP.
Like, there's nothing... Like, he doesn't form some sort of stupid blob with Squighoppers. That's not how Squighoppers work. Like, Squighoppers are fine in armies with Grom, but there's not any particular, like, synergy there.
Yeah.
I think the synergy with... Well, Grom more synergizes with Trolls for the ITP, obviously. And Squighoppers synergize with Doom and Darkness, or alternatively with the Bonewood Staff, because that gives you melee attack and also how much charge bonus? 20% extra charge bonus.
That's pretty good. From Hank Cyrus and Saltier Than You, why is Grimgor the baddest orc? And why is he so different compared to Lords? If he's not the biggest an artist, who is?
Grom. That's Grom.
Fuck.
Grom is the biggest an artist.
Gotcha.
Definitely the biggest. I mean, he's a bad lord because he's a foot lord.
Yeah. Don't let Queek hear that. Queek's the best lord, even though every time I test him against something, he fails horrifically.
Queek is just even worse than Grimgor.
He is. Like, his stats are so good, but his animations... There's too much love. There's too much love and care in his animations, so much so that he misses, like, half his attack opportunities because he's busy, like... staggering or screaming or doing something, and I'm like, no, just hit, just swing, that is all I want from you. And he's like, want to see me do a flip? I'm like, fucking no, hit him right now.
Plus he doesn't even have a slow.
He doesn't have a slow.
But the one matchup where he's okay, right, is dwarfs. Am I right?
Queek? Yeah. Queek's good into dwarfs for the exact same reason you were talking about Grimgor being good into dwarfs, is that I can guarantee you there is someone to fight that cannot outrun me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. All right. What lord is the most flexible? I have a guess. I have a guess that it is the Spider Shaman.
I think it's Grimgor. Oh, sorry, Grom.
But Grimgor would have been a shocking answer.
Grimgor would have been a shock. I wish I'd been joking instead of just failing to talk properly.
Damn it.
Would have been a good joke.
Yeah.
It's just Grom because having a tanky lord is just never bad. Like, he can kill infantry, he can be disruptive, and if he really needs to deal single entities, then he does that okay when he's charging and when he's got his buffs. So, like, he's just never terrible. I suppose what's the one exception? If your opponent has really gambled on finding a way to kill him, then he's not that good. Like, if you go up against, like, high elves and they bring 3 Sisters of Avalon and a net, but, you know, then you just win with the rest of your army. So even then, Grimgor's not like a throw.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he's the only one who can reliably not be killed. Actually, Skarsnik as well. But Skarsnik is just
Footlord.
He's just usually irrelevant. That's the trouble with Skarsnik.
Why is Azhag no longer meta? And what makes a meta greenskin lord currently? A real human being. Like, I mean, we talked about Grom at length. So let's say, like, if you were designing a brand new lord right now, what would make them meta?
I'll start with the Azhag question.
Yes.
And that is, it's partly it's Grom coming out and just being better. The other thing is mass changes, and it's really hard now for his mount to push out of infantry. He just gets stuck in most infantry now. And like the whole point of Azhag was you charge in, like snipe something, and then you run away again. But now you can't run away anymore. So he just dies. Because he doesn't have good very good melee defense. It's it's 32 on his mount. But it's not enough to keep him safe. He only has 70 armor. He barely has more hit points than like the foot greenskin lords.
Damn.
Like he only has like 4k HP. So he's just not very tanky, and he can't escape from those situations, which he used to be able to. And you have another Deathcaster.
The River Troll.
Yeah.
Taking all the fun out of the game, frickin' River Troll.
Everyone's favorite.
Yeah. He's having a hard time waddling through Spearmen, but he's also taking a lot of damage while he does it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Oh, and meta... The more difficult question. What would make a meta greenskin lord?
You can't remake Grom.
Yeah, it's basically... It would be like Grom if he were anti-large. Or like Grom with AP.
Yeah.
Because what you need is somebody who can't really be sniped and can fight enemy single entities. So maybe if you had a regenerating like lord on a boar, that could be kind of good.
Like a troll lord on a boar.
Yeah.
Yeah. They call him...
Maybe just a troll lord actually could be okay.
They call him Umphus. Umphus the Troll Lord. Watch as he's still better than Throg. Poor Throg.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, poor Throg. I don't even know why Throg is bad.
He's just not very good. Like, that's kind of the thing. It's not that he is terrible at anything, it's that he's also not that good at anything.
I think he needs a bit more armor.
Yeah.
If he had like... Yeah. If he had like close to 100 armor, I think Thor could be good. So like a stone troll lord.
Oh god. That's what the community wants. More stone trolls.
Yeah.
Hammond asked an interesting question. Giving... all the rest of these have been other shit, but this one's good. Giving the generic greenskin lords and heroes wolf or boar chariot mounts, is that a good or a bad idea? Wolf for goblins, boars for orcs.
So wolf is just, I think, a relevant idea because no one would use them. Because basically they're too... The wolf chariots are just too squishy. And you'd just be making them a bigger target, I think.
Mm.
So I don't think you'd pay very much for that upgrade. If it was really cheap on a goblin big boss, sure, you'd take it so that you can push through infantry. But I don't think it would be that cheap. And given how cheap the goblin big boss is already, like adding like a couple of hundred to his cost will have to make him a lot better.
Yeah.
Then like a boar chariot amount. Does anyone want that? Like, it's either not good or it's like a stupid blob of like, here's Grom, 2 shamans on boar chariots and 4 stone trolls running around killing everything. Like, it's just gonna be, yeah, like if it's good, you won't want to deal with it.
Got it.
And if it's not good, it's irrelevant. So please No, don't do that.
We'll ask the last Lord question, and that'll switch us back into matchups easily enough. The lore of Big Wa or the lore of Little Wa, considering builds and matchups. When that's from XMT Way. And why I put that in the Lords category is because usually your Lord or hero has to cast it. So it's like, when do you take the lore of Big Wa, and when do you take the lore of Little Wa?
So Big Wa as a lore of magic is almost always a better lore of magic, because you still have a magic missile, and since the nerf to Vindictive Glare, like Gaze of Mork isn't much worse. And what you get is the ability to nuke infantry, which is useful, and nothing else in the Little Wa is particularly good. Like Sneaky Stabbing is okay, like it can make boars trade up into cavalry if you manage to get a good cast. But like almost everything else in Little Wa is kind of either terrible or meh, like Itchy Nuisance. Yeah, it's just not that exciting, lowering melee to attack in an area. Stalk is just a stupid meme. Curse the Bad Moon is a stupid meme. And Gork will fix it. The slowing spell is okay against Platonia, but that's about it.
It's one of those things that feels nice until you realize you're one of the most mobile factions in the game, so you're usually the faster one.
Yeah. It's just not that useful. It really isn't. Whilst Big Wa, you get ability to make a unit do magic damage, which is really nice in some matchups. And in basically every matchup, like Brain Burster is nice to have. Like, it's just almost always good. So, therefore, when would you take Little Wa? The answer is when you prefer the character that has Little Wa. So, if you want a Spider Shaman, just take Little Wa because he has Little Wa. If you want your caster to be able to stalk so that he's better at casting Vindictive Glare at artillery, then you take Little Wa. If you want the Wand of Jet on your hero caster, then you'll take a Little Wa Night Goblin Shaman, and he can then support, like, for example, Wurzag as your lord. You get extra winds of magic, and you get 2 magic missiles instead of 1. But for the actual lore of magic, it's rarely much better. Like, possibly Bretonia, possibly into dwarves because Black Orcs benefit a lot from Sneaky Stabbing, but we're kind of clutching at straws. You really take it because you want the caster, not because you want the lore of magic.
That's interesting. Actually, I guess I'm just so used to the Vindictive Glare meta that I'm like, his answer is going to be the Little Wa. So you did surprise me.
Well, since the change, like, yes, you can get more AP on your Vindictive Glare, but that was never as useful as having double the number of
missiles,
of magic missiles.
Oopsies. Well, I just hit start again, but whatever. The last couple matchup questions is why don't people play greenskins defensively with, like, the Biggin and any other artillery? That's from Hammond.
Basically, that's just because your artillery is fairly inefficient. You do see it sometimes, so one of the ways to play against dwarves is to take a few rock lobbers and pick them apart. But unless they've got something like iron breakers, you'll get to the end of the game, the rock lobber will have used all of its ammo, and it'll have like 600 value, which is what it costs. So the reward just isn't very great. You used to see it with Doom Divers, but now that they're 1,000 gold instead of 900, it's just quite a lot to commit. And that kind of links into the other reason, which is greenskins have low leadership, so they're not an obvious pick at defending like a gun line anyway.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, as Skaven, I've recently just, if you bring one catapult or something, I usually just ignore it till it runs out of ammo.
Yeah.
Because it's like, by the time I shut it down, I've put myself in such a bad situation, it was better if I just ignored it.
That's very wise. Like, they're basically just there to trick people and to fulfill the attacking rule. Trick people into attacking you and making mistakes.
Achilles, in the chat, he did say chaos to that question, and Jeremy answered it at the same time I did. Gosh darn it, Jeremy.
Oh yeah, chaos. Okay, you can use the ROR Rock Club against chaos. That's actually kind of decent because you're not that unlikely to see like heavy infantry. So yeah, it's kind of useful, and you get a debuff, which is kind of useful in a situation where the infantry fight is important.
Gotcha. Is there any matchup that you can boar boy spam and try to win from away?
You can try and win with that in any matchup, but reliably actually do it, no. I've tried it into Brett, and I've won some games against decent players into Brett. Not great players, decent players. So you would just spam, and I used to recommend taking like 3 or 4 boar boy biggins into Brett. Still isn't terrible to do, but probably not ideal. But the fundamental problem with boar boys is they're awful against infantry. They're a cav unit that can't really cycle charge. I don't know what it is. I think it's a combination of like their speed and like their turning circle. Like squig hoppers can like turn on the spot and bounce back. Boar boys, like when they get stuck in infantry, they don't come out very cleanly, and they're pretty bad base stats. So they're kind of meh. If I had to pick one other than Brett, I'd probably say Chaos, because again, I think you'd use like Doom and Darkness to try and insta route stuff, and just like use your numbers of cav, charge their heavy infantry from all sides, try and get a big terror route. But again, I don't think you're going to win against actual good players.
Gotcha. The last matchup question: what do you expect to be good or bad matchups in Game 3? From Jeremy.
Oof. I haven't thought about this one. Let me think. Khorne should be evenish. I mean, it'll be a lot like the current Chaos matchup. It's just 2 factions that are good at melee, trying to fight each other. I thought Tzeentch is probably going to be fine because they'll have all these like weird magic units, and their weird magic units will all just have to use all their expensive like bound abilities on Skirmish Cav and not get good value. I think you just be able to overrun them. Not sure about Nurgle. Slanesh is probably good because Slanesh will rely on mobility, and you can use your Skirmish Cav to counter that. Kislev. It depends how Cav are. If Cav are the way they currently are, then greenskins will crush Kislev. You just run forward with a wall of infantry and like skirmish Cav and spider riders, and
Gotcha.
like gum up their Cav. But if Cav is fixed and they're really impactful against infantry, it might be more even. I have no idea what Cathay will have, so I'm not even gonna speculate there.
There was the trailer today. You know they have firework cannons. Satsuma. It's pretty. It's pretty good. It's like a good trailer, but doesn't tell you very much. You see at most like, let's say I'm gonna be generous and say 6 units, and 2 of them are like, wait, they have spearmen. So
Yeah.
it was a hype trailer, but I'm not I know some YouTubers like to dive into it and be like, all right, I can pick apart the whole faction from this. I'm like, no, you can't. Just give up. All right. You want to do units, memes, or you specific questions?
Oh, let's save me specific for last. Let's do units. Let's keep it serious, then descend into comedy slowly.
Okay. Jay Phoenix and myself have asked, is there any DLC left?
Yes.
What are we missing?
I think you could still have loads. So I think the main things to add are different goblin variants and different hero variants. Like at the moment we have one goblin big boss, one goblin shaman, one orc boss, like one orc shaman, and a hag. But you could have like a forest goblin shaman, a normal goblin shaman. You could have forest goblin big boss. You could have like a savage orc hero, a normal orc hero. I think they could have different uses. Like I quite like the idea if the orc hero were like the standard sort of like paladin, noble, tomb prince style, like anti-large horse hero. I think that could be quite useful in the faction.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be quite cool to see like a goblin shaman on a wolf. I think that could be cool. And then in terms of units, I think the most impactful one we're missing is probably the spear chucker.
Oh, yeah.
That would help against lizardmen.
For those who don't know what it is, what is it?
It's just like a really, really shit bolt thrower.
Yeah.
I like to think that it would be, because it's like a terrible bolt thrower. I think it might come in like a double size, like a unit of 6 of them instead of 3. It'd be cool if it malfunctioned occasionally and just accidentally threw the crew instead of throwing a spear chucker every now and again. That'd be nice. So I think that would actually be an impactful unit because it would help in the lizard matchup. I think more in terms of probably less important units, but units that you could keep adding for the campaign players. You could just add like all the different types of goblin into the infantry selection. You could have like hobgoblins, forest goblins. I don't think they would really affect the way greenskins play, but you can see them doing DLCs like that.
Jeremy screams out Mangler squigs.
Oh, wait, are those the ones that are tied together with like chains?
Yep.
That'd be cool. Oh, we need the giant squig.
Oh,
That'd be so cool.
that's right. It's not even a campaign exclusive unit. There's only the exploding one.
Yeah.
Giant.
Well, like the super massive one, which is like the size of an arachnarok spider.
Yeah.
And then you could get a mod, and you could make it orange, and it'd be like a giant Satsuma just bouncing around the battlefield.
You're unbiased in this opinion.
Yes,
I see.
I am completely unbiased.
So this is a larger topic that we might as well tackle, and it might knock out multiple questions at once. Both these questions are from me, but I asked orc boys, orc biggins, and black orcs when each, and then also like why are savage orc biggins so much better than normal orc biggins? Like, is the physical resist that impactful? So let's just talk about the orc infantry. Like, why are orc boys themselves so rare?
I don't think orc boys are that rare. I think they're okay. And I take them reasonably frequently. I think they're just in a slightly funny space between actually winning the infantry fight and being like proper chaff. Oh, orc boys are fine. I don't think they're like a super rare unit. I would say goblins being able to charge your war faster. I think that's one of the reasons you tend to see goblins more than orc boys. The orc boys are fine. There's nothing wrong with orc boys. Then savage why are Savage Orc Biggins better than normal Biggins? I think a lot of it is the extra melee attack from Frenzy as well. That really seems to make a difference. So they just, if you trade them against each other, the Savage Orc one will win with like almost half its HP. It's weird like how much stronger the Savage version is, and I don't think it's all down to physical resist. The other good thing about Savage Orc Biggins is speed. You go from I think 31 to 37, and it's just being able to pressure. That's pretty powerful.
They are.
I guess the other thing with the Savage Orc Biggins, because Frenzy increases your charge bonus, that actually makes a fair bit of difference. When your starting charge bonus is 34. What's basic Biggins only have 27.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. I think I was talking about it in the last one with Taco, that the Nehakaran and Skeleton Horseman Cav for Tomb Kings have less charge bonus than most Orc infantry.
Yeah.
And it's
Which
just,
I like.
Yeah. I mean, it works. Sucks for Tomb Kings, but it works for these guys. It's just interesting that technically they're better than Cav at that.
Yeah, although I'm not quite sure how the impact, damage and speed interact with those. You need to talk to one of the proper mechanics nerds to get a feel for that. But the actual charge bonus, yeah, it's better, especially if you have War or Wurzag.
Wah. What are the good matchups for Black Orcs, and why are they so damn cool? Bob Tresh and Murphalurf.
So for cool, I think I'll have to borrow from what Tyrion always says about them, which is that they hold their weapons like hockey players. And when you zoom out, it looks like a bunch of hockey players walking around.
That is true.
When are they good? When you need AP, basically. So good into dwarves, good into chaos, and then they have some functionality at countercharging. Well, they're very good at countercharging Cav. So they have some use against. Can use them into Brett, although I still don't think it's the best way to do it. You can use it against high elves if you're worried about a lot of dragon princes. Okay, against Empire as well. Yeah, but basically against armor, good against Cav, and they're not as weak to Burning Head as the rest of your infantry, which is quite nice. So they're very resistant to Burning Head.
They are very resistant to Burning Head. I recently found that out. That was a bad day.
Yeah. So you can kind of fit if you fit 2 into your front line, then you can have a normal unit between them, and then you can't get those horrible Burning Head casts, which just rout your whole front line off.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's the other thing between Savage Orcs and normal Orcs, and Savage Biggins and normal Biggins. Basically Savage is better unless you think there's going to be a lot of wind spells. Or you really need the shield on your basic Orc boy.
Yeah, in a matchup with maybe cheap archers or something. Maybe.
And weakness of Black Orcs, I suppose I should say, is its speed. And I mean, 2 things by that. One is literally their speed. It's 29 speed compared to 31 for base infantry, 37 for savage. And the other one is actually speed at which they deal damage. If you're not against something armored, then Savage Orc Biggins will kill things quicker than Blue Orcs do. They have better melee attack. And not only that, but you're just spending 250 gold more on a unit that's going to be slower cutting through chaff. So whenever you take Black Orcs, for those reasons combined, you're putting a lot less pressure on your opponent. Black Orcs is more I'm going to have these things and you're not going to be able to kill them. Whilst most of the other greenskin options are about putting your opponent under too much pressure, chopping through all their chaff as quickly as you can, and just sort of suffocating them.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just testing them versus Slayers because I know they're good in the dwarf matchup. And I was thinking maybe Slayers can trade into them okay because they're not armored, but they do fine.
No. They do fine to Slayers, yeah.
It's good. It's good to see.
Not giant Slayers.
Not giant Slayers, but that's a little disingenuous to be like, all right, there's an unbreakable armor-piercing unit. You lost? What? But yeah, it's good. Like, I love elite infantry, and they've been in a rough spot in the game for a while, so it's good to hear Black Orcs are getting some love.
Yeah. But they're the right price range as well for elite infantry.
Sorry. You
go. They're not super expensive, and they have high HP per model and high armor. That's what you need. They can't be punished as hard as, something like Swordmasters. Sort of the classic example of bad elite infantry.
Cry is free asked, do Orc boys still beat Dryads? They haven't tested it in a while. I'm going to test it on stream unless you have an answer.
I looked at some of the questions, and this is one that I did test. In the test that I didn't use War just to see, and it looked like the Orc boys were going to win, and then they routed. So it was really, really close, but they lost. If you use a War, you'll win.
I would hope so.
And obviously, I mean, they're 125 gold less. So it's a good trade. Again, slightly disingenuous because Dryads they're like a niche unit rather than they're paying for loose formation, speed, magic damage, Vanguard. So it's not quite a fair comparison, but no, that Orc boys trade pretty well into most things around their price range.
Yeah.
Very well, actually, I should say.
Do you know that if the Dryads get distracted attacking Grimgor for most of the fight, they'll definitely lose?
Do they?
Yeah. Yeah. It turns out if you're not actually attacking the opponent, you will lose.
That's how you can deal damage without taking damage.
Hell yeah.
That's what the game's all about.
How many greenskin units are underpriced? Saltier than you.
Sounds like a leading question. So I think it's most of their infantry. Like, not much else really worries me, like, in terms of what's underpriced. But, like, basic goblins, like, for 300 gold, they charge your war really quickly, and when you get the war, you suddenly get, like, the best infantry unit in the game for 300 gold. You could say the same thing about Orc boys. They'll generally trade above their price bracket. And like Savage Orc Biggins, I'd say the same thing. I think normal Biggins are kind of fine. Savage Orc Biggins, if there isn't loads of wind spells, are pretty strong. Black Orcs are efficient, but they're still elite infantry, so yes, they're better than most elite infantry, but I don't think they're like a problem unit.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I think the Skirmish Cav is if it's underpriced, it's barely underpriced. Like, I think the more important thing with them is, they're much better value than like High Elf Skirmish Cav, and they're similar to, possibly a tiny bit better than the Chaos and Norska versions, depending on the context. We slightly prefer them over those, but they have less DPS than the Chaos and Norska version, so there's a bit of give and take.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are fine. I don't think any of their monsters are generally overpriced. Trolls are kind of okay. Like, since they nerfed stone trolls a bit, they're not too terrible. Artillery's not overpriced. Oh, sorry, is overpriced. It's not underpriced. Possibly boar chariots. I haven't tested them enough since the very latest patch. They may still be underpriced. Yeah, I don't think boars are a problem. I don't think squigs are a problem. The archers are fine. It's basically just the infantry, and that, like, in the meta we're in, that's just important. like, oh, my whole front line trades efficiently into your whole front line. Like the way the game works at the moment, that's just a very big advantage to have. And it just, in matchups where your opponent hasn't got something horrible that the greenskins struggle with, like a big dinosaur or like, you know, the count sort of fast healing SEMs, like in those kind of situations, that just tips a lot of matchups like 5% into your favor. Like your opponent has to usually do something a little bit clever or a little bit cheesy because your front line is just more efficient.
Doing a little bit of cleanup. Hammond asked if CA said in Game 3 there were more forest goblin variants of the units already present, including Lord and Heroes. Would that be good, bad, or whatever? It sounds like Satsuma thinks that would be good just for flavor, not that it would change the meta.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Perfect. Exactly what I'd say.
I swear I saw another one we already talked about, but I guess we'll find it. When would you ever bring Savage Orc Cavalry, Melverde?
I don't bring it in any matchups at the moment. Why is that? It used to be a bit of a thing against Dark Elves, but greenskins have better options there since the Grom DLC. Why would you bring them? They do slightly more damage when they charge, because the stats on Boar Boys are quite low. You start off with 22 melee attacks, so buffing that up by 10 with Frenzy is actually kind of nice. So you'd think there'd be some utility there, for example, against Cav factions, like maybe Brett. But they're kind of in a funny spot, the Savage Orc ones, because you pay 100 extra and you sort of get a little bit of extra utility. Whilst if you pay another 200 and upgrade from Savage Orcs to Boar Boy Biggins, it's a huge difference. Like, you don't get very much for that extra 100. You know, you actually you lose 30 armor. Like 65 to 30 is a pretty big difference.
Yeah, I'm testing on stream right now how they fare versus Skirmish Cav, and I'm imagining the damage will be different.
Yeah, I think it probably will be, because 35 armor blocks. How does that work? It blocks like roughly a quarter of the damage you take. Well, it's 65 deals like she slowly stops.
Okay, the AI are really fucking this up because they're going into melee with their Skirmish Cav. Thank you, AI. You are so freaking helpful.
But the main problem is it's 100 extra gold.
Yeah.
So not much. And like Orc Boar Boy Biggins are a lot better. Like there you get another 20 armor. You get 800 more HP. You get extra leadership, and you get an anti-large bonus. And anti-large is the only real thing that boars are good at anyway, so there's not much point in paying 100 to get up to that sort of intermediate stage.
Are goblin wolf chariots ever worth taking over, wolf riders or spider riders? Are they even any good? This is from the versions of this question are from Way, me, and Ilmatar.
The only matchup where I think actually it's probably slightly. I used to take them against Skaven, and that's just because yes, you can skirmish with them and they kind of fulfill the attacking role, but it's actually odd. Their missile damage is a lot less than a Wolf Rider Archer. It's surprising that it's so much less, because if you actually do the maths on the unit, it looks like a Goblin Wolf Chariots that have very similar DPS to a Wolf Rider Archer, but for whatever reason, they don't. It doesn't actually manifest. I don't know about something about how like the multiple arrows are aiming or something, but they do way less damage than the Skirmish Cav do. So the only reason you take them is to be able to like punch through formations and route things.
Hmm.
And the problem with doing that with Wolf Rider chariots is that they have pretty bad mass for a chariot. So they kind of struggle to push through most infantry units. So Skaven, I think, is one of the few factions where they can actually push through, and also one of the factions where getting like a unit that's faster and stronger than the clan rats, and then having that unit get a rear charge, and so you can break into the Skaven box, that actually has some utility. Again, I need to test how boar chariots are doing since the latest patch, because last week you still wouldn't take goblin wolf chariots because you just take the broken boar chariots instead.
Gotcha.
But they may now be an okay option against Skaven again.
Real Human Being and Bob Tresh ask, when would you take the Teef Robos, which is the ROR?
Never, ever, ever. Like, it's 150 gold, and the only thing you get is better stats and Vanguard deployment.
You get Vanguard! Yeah, that's
like
super dumb.
That's so dumb. Like, there's so many RRs that get so much. Like, Mangy Marauders, you get AP and you get ITP. Like, completely changes the unit. Vanguard just...
And the ROR doesn't even look cool.
Yeah.
I'm comparing them side by side, and it's like, ooh, our shields are yellow. Lame.
You don't even need stats on a chariot unit.
Yeah.
Like, it's not how they work.
You need it to look cool.
Yeah.
I saw something. Speaking of Skirmish Cav, Jay Phoenix asks, when is it worth taking the Skirmish Cav ROR? Now there are 3. I'm assuming they mean...
Well, I don't think she's talking about the Teef robbers.
No, I'm guessing Morgrubs.
Yeah, or even the spider one. So Morgrub's Mangy Marauders are pretty good in quite a few matchups, because they do well against armored cav, armored single entities. So I'm not sure I'll list all the matchups, but they're just quite often worth it. Like, unless you're not expecting to see armor against like beastmen, or you're pretty sure that they can focus down the Mangy Marauders. Yeah, they're pretty good. They can also kill gyros, which a lot of greenskin units struggle with. Yeah, they're just a nice unit. I think she probably means the Death Creepers more, because they're actually, you see them a lot less.
Yeah, they're the same price as Morgrubs.
They are, and Morgrubs are usually better. So Death Creepers, I think they have like two things that's nice about them. One is they regen. So if you really think there's going to be a prolonged skirmish cav engagement and you have a little bit of money spare, you can dodge with them quite nicely and just like prolong that skirmish cav fight, use all their ammo, abuse your regen. And then I think probably the bigger use is just as like a little surprise in some matchups, because it's a stalking cavalry unit. So you can use them to... I used to use them against Bretonia to rear charge peasant archers. Because again, not only is it a stalking cavalry unit, but it's like their stats are basically the same as a melee forest goblin spider rider because of the ROR status.
Yeah. It's like
so
one melee defense less and 2 melee attack, but otherwise it's the same.
They're pretty nice at that. And yeah, you can kill off like isolated artillery crews. I don't take them most of the time, but yeah, they're alright. I don't ever really hate people taking them, especially because like it's not unusual to commit your Spider Rider archers to melee at some point, so yeah, they're alright.
Oh, here we're running into a lot of the same type of question. Real Human Being asks, is Greenskin Skirmish Cav still oppressive? I would vote no, as someone who fights Greenskins. They're annoying, but I don't think they're oppressive.
Yeah, I agree. Like the main reason you see so much of them is that they are really, really flexible. Like, where do I start with that? So one is they provide mass and poison, which for a faction that's fairly infantry centric is quite nice. It's another way of making cycle charging a bit more painful for your opponent. They also can't really be shut down, and that's pretty handy when you are a kind of low leadership faction. And they can shoot a bunch of things that foot archers can't shoot. So things that, like flyers, for example, enemy skirmish cav. Because the greenskin archers, like the max range is on the orc arrow boys at 140, which still isn't that much. They struggle a bit at really dealing damage to like any flyers and skirmish cav, or zoning them that well. So they give you utility against stuff like pterodons, gyros, which your normal archers struggle against. And they can also be used to like charge enemy archers and get rear charges. And again, for a faction that wants to sort of suffocate their opponent and pressure them, that's pretty powerful. Especially when you time it so that you're charging with your skirmish cav at the same time as the war hits, because then they suddenly become temporary melee cav. So it's just like a lot of things. None of those functions is in itself like overpowered, but just in all those different situations you're getting an okay value from them. They're just very rarely a bad thing to take, and almost always give you something.
Hammond and Real Human Being ask, what is the most cost-effective unit on the roster and the most spammable? Is it goblins because of the war charge?
Yeah, I think that's probably it. War charge, and also just fairly efficient unit.
Silver shields, somehow.
Silver shields. Well, they're small. The shield may not be that big, but compared to them it is.
I guess, but it's so weird that they get silver shields.
I like it.
What is the most niche greenskin unit? Real Human Being.
I think it's probably skulkers.
Okay.
But there's units that just you don't see at all, like the teeth rubbers. But that's because they don't even have a niche. What skulkers, when used correctly, can be very powerful, but they're also incredibly vulnerable. So if they manage to get their snare on an enemy cav, like heavy cav unit, they can basically get their value in that moment. But equally, if someone casts Burning Head, they'll just die in one go because they're 40 leadership and not much HP per model. Similarly, like they trade pretty badly into most enemy infantry. And yeah, just running away. For like a unit that's fairly cheap, like 500 gold, the main thing you usually want from that kind of a unit is to stick around in combat. But
they have less leadership than goblins and night goblins.
Yeah.
And night goblins have less leadership than goblins? Wait, that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, that's why night goblins are just pretty terrible now.
But why? Night goblins are like in the lore, they're like crazed version of goblins, and they're still a little cowardly, but they're definitely better than the plains goblins.
Who knows?
That has upset me. I never knew that.
Yeah, that's why you don't see night goblins, because they're a chaff unit that runs away, and the whole point of chaff is just being there.
Okay.
Like their stats are fine. Like they trade. If you just do an isolated test and you just trade them into enemy infantry, they do fine. But why would you want a chaff unit that runs away? Especially when the point of that chaff unit is to charge up your war, and they just do it for a far shorter period. Yeah, I think the niche unit is skulkers, because they are the counter to heavy cav, but they are also a unit that will instantly rout if they get charged by certain heavy cavalry units. And you don't get the smoke bomb at just the perfect moment.
Real Human Being asked, why does no one use Nasty Skulkers anymore? And you just answered that. And also Real Human Being asked, Night Gabo frontline or normal Gabo frontline? And you also just answered.
Yeah. I should add on Nasty Skull because you have other snares now. Like
Yes.
you have the Hag, you have Skarsnik, you have Grimgor.
Oh, yes. Grimgor is the best hero or lord targeted snare. Slicker Masher in the chat is asking, do Fanatics have a use if Night Gabos are bad? And that rolls right into the question of from 0 to 10, how OP were pre-patch Fanatics, and was the nerf fair? So cries Fury Bob Tresh. So let's talk about Fanatics. What they used to be, what they are now, and do you still take them?
Okay, we should start with before the OP Fanatics, because for a long time Fanatics were like a good, like they were fine for a very, very long time, and that was when they had no range, and they made that change, and that made them OP. Because here was the difference: before, you couldn't Fanatic the thing that you were fighting very efficiently, because it would just go like forward out of the unit.
Oh, so, that's what you mean. You might want to explain that a little better, because I didn't know what you were talking about till that moment.
Yeah, so they had 0 range, and so like the Fanatics used to be like, you know, like the bound plague breath, pestilent breath on a plague priest.
Yeah.
Or like those other like bound abilities, which just you could choose where they point, but they would just come out of the front of the unit. What's now they have a 15-meter range. It used to be 25 meters when they're really, really OP. But yeah, that was always fine, because what you couldn't do then was walk up to another unit whilst you're in melee with it, and then just launch a Fanatic down the line, sort of obliterating the whole unit.
Yeah.
And that was what made them silly. So what you had to do then was spend a very long time positioning them just to get a sideways angle. And what, you know, it was instead more about like Fanatic kiting. You would walk close to the enemy but not in melee with them.
Yeah.
Send Fanatics into their lines, run away again.
So to show on stream what Satsuma's talking about, just in case you were confused, I'm currently doing what the old Fanatics could do. You couldn't turn the cone like you can now. So what he's saying is when you're fighting with a melee unit, you couldn't like turn it on them like I'm about to and do that. It would just go outwards from the fight. So it was only really useful in the charge.
Yeah.
That would be a big change. I forgot that was a thing.
Yeah, and they were perfect then. They were perfect. And then they changed it. And so I think when they first changed it, they were like... The 8-peak loons were like 10 out of 10 OP, and other Fanatics were probably like an 8 or something. But that was before you even had the 25% hit point issue with them.
Yeah.
So the 8-peak loons, like the one last loon, could fire all the Fanatics.
Oh, I forgot that was a thing too.
That was a stupid thing. Like people would just walk the 8-peak loons into the enemy army right at the outset, fire their Fanatics. People would get stuck on them, and then like when the 8-peak loon was like down to a few models, it would then get another Fanatic.
Yeah.
And like if your opponent has like tried to go past them, like they'd be in the middle of their army just looning stuff. So yeah, they used to be really stupid. I think once they add the 25% HP thing, and they also reduced I think they might have reduced the range slightly. I can't remember by how much. That made them to like I think they were like 7 out of 10 OP. I don't think they were that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, they can delete a unit of elite infantry pretty much in one go, but it still costs 500 gold, and they also get deleted by various wind spells in one go. And if you're playing in a kind of, if you don't blob that hard or don't take really expensive things, it wasn't really much of a problem.
No.
Like it's just like one more thing that makes elite infantry bad, and the fact that they're like incredibly OP against elite infantry, which is a unit with so many issues anyway. Like it really isn't much of a overall balance issue in my mind, because they're countering something that is just not a good unit anyway.
And now with the 15 seconds, how do you feel? Or you start out the game with 15
no,
second
they're
cooldown?
basically garbage. I don't take the 8 big loonies anymore. I don't really take any fanatics, except in certain. It's less. Fewer of my builds have the loonies than don't have them. Than do have them. I don't take them in many matchups.
Gotcha.
Like basically the 8 big loonies are still okay because you can still, with an unbreakable unit, be fairly confident of getting a cast off. But with the 500 gold ones, unless you're exactly monitoring like that 15 seconds, like you're never quite sure when you've got it, and they rout after like 30 seconds, so
Yeah.
it's quite easy to just, or if there's terror, they'll rout way quicker. If there's a wind spell, they'll insta rout as soon as the wind spell comes in. So it's good players are quite good at stopping you getting any fanatic casts off at all. Like even the 8 peak loonies, like good players can kill them in 15 seconds if you have the wind spell to hand. So I think they're pretty garbage now, and obviously fanatic archers are completely dead. They're like an expensive hedge against elite infantry.
Gotcha.
And there's other ways of hedging against elite infantry.
J Phoenix asks, when are rank 9 goblins good?
Very rarely. When you really want your whole army to have shields, I think is the answer. So I've used that against Dacta's wood elves, for example, and you take like a bunch of rank 9 goblins and a bunch of sort of ranked up orc boys as well, not rank 9 but like with some chevrons, because none of your good infantry has shields. So if you're worried about missiles, particularly AP missiles that could kill your black orcs, then yeah, this is a way to make all archers not have a good target. But that's about it. Because like the problem with a rank 9 goblin is you're now actually spending a fair bit of gold. Should probably check how much gold it is, like 500 or something.
It's 488, yeah.
488, and it will still die to like one wind spell, and it because their weapon strength is still quite low. They'll take a long time to kill their targets, and they are just as weak to cav, which is one of the problems with goblins.
I asked this question. There are 4 arch units, only one of which does poison, like standing archers, not skirmish cap. So ignoring that one, what's the difference between the other 3? Goblin archers, savage orc aura boys, and orc aura boys.
So, key difference between goblins and orcs generally is gobble archers are the minimum AP version. They have 10 base attack and 1 AP missile attack, whilst orc arrow boys are basically crossbowmen in like every single way. They're like a cross between crossbowmen and Free Company militia. So they only have 140 range, whilst a lot, not all archers, but a lot of archers have 160. Some even have like 170, 180. And they have a high proportion of AP. What is it? 6 AP per shot, 14 base missile damage, which is the same AP that you get on a crossbowman, and the same kind of AP ratio you see on most melee units. Other key difference is range, and and that's one of the reasons you don't always see goblin archers is that low range. They're 115, and that if your opponent is positioned well, that sometimes means that you can't shoot their archers, but they can shoot your archers. Like even after the front lines have engaged, like if their stuff is more than 115 meters from the combat line of units, like your archers just stand there like numpties, not being able to do anything. So that makes them a little bit awkward. Other two differences are combat ability. Obviously, Orc Arrowboys much better in prolonged combat, and also significantly less squishy. They have more HP, and more importantly, they have more HP per model. Like Goblin Arrowboys have, terrible. It's like Goblin level HP per model, or even worse, I think. So they're very weak to any AoE effects. Short answer is you don't usually see Goblin Archers. They have theoretical higher DPS, but it's just really awkward to ever bring it to bear on the target you want to. Orc Arrowboys versus Savage Orc Arrowboys. Basically, Savage Orcs do more damage in melee. They're technically slightly weaker have worse melee defense, but effectively they're better in melee than Orc Arrowboys are, 50 gold. So you tend to see them against, for example, counts, where they can sort of just bash the zombies that get summoned on them pretty quickly. They also get 6 more speed, 31 to 37, and that's actually kind of useful. Because obviously one of the classic problems of archers is, like foot archers, is they don't move and shoot, so whenever they have to turn to shoot something new, they can't shoot while they're doing it. So if you can make that turning process a bit quicker, you get more effective shooting time out of them. So Savage Orc Arrowboys are pretty popular, and I think their formation is slightly more spread, which is pretty useful as well.
We just talked about it a bit, so we might as well go all in. From XMT Way, Gobos versus Orcs. Which equivalent units are better in each unit class? We don't have to go through thing by thing, but he was talking about like Lords versus Lords, Mage versus Mage, Hero versus Hero, Archer versus Archer, Chef versus Chef. That is a lot to go into.
Orc Archers are better than Goblin Archers. Goblins and Orc Boys are both pretty good, but Goblins are slightly better in most situations. But that one's pretty close still. Heroes aren't really comparable. Lords, the Goblin one is better because the Orc Warboss is completely useless. The Goblin Warboss at least has a couple of snares. The Goblin Big Boss is also better than the Black Orc Big Boss. It's just so much cheaper, and his debuff is nice.
God, this is like the Lizardman interview all over again, where it's like, oh, the orcs are so much bigger and cooler and badass. All the goblin units are better. Why? Because they're cheaper. Fuck!
I mean, there are... yeah, that's true. There are some orc units, obviously, that don't have goblin equivalents, like the heavy infantry.
The Black Orcs.
Black Orcs, Savage Orc Biggins. And again, like, goblins aren't an exact equivalent of Orc Boys, so it feels a bit unfair to compare them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's sad. Cheap stuff is good.
It is good. I like this question, so I'm just going to ask it and get off all this serious stuff for just a moment. Is there a campaign unit you wish was an ROR instead of campaign exclusive? Hammond.
Oof. See, I'm not the campaign expert.
There's the exploding squig that's like a bloated corpse. There's armored...
Yeah, obviously that would be good because it wouldn't be very good, so it'd be a fun meme.
There's armored squig hoppers, lava spider riders that shoot fire arrows, the lava Ragnarok spider. Hydra
the
and a
lava
Wyvern.
spider riders would be good because it's just another Mogreb's Mangy Marauder. And
Yeah.
it turns out Mogreb's Mangy Marauders are good, and they have AP in melee, so they'd obviously be good.
Oh god, and they're way undercosted. 475.
Yeah, that's the same as a normal spider rider.
All right. Well, I'd assume they'd be more expensive.
Yeah, they'd still be like, unless they're more expensive than the Marauders, they'd still be pretty good. Lava Arachnarok Spider, is that like a mortis engine or something? I literally can't.
It has a rock drop on itself.
Okay.
Oh, and it does have a mortis engine. I didn't even know that one. I knew the big rock drop because it's exciting.
I've literally never used it.
Well,
Like, it came out after I finished the Greenskin campaign back in Warhammer 1. And
that's
I
it.
haven't played campaign in a while.
Taco and J Phoenix ask, "Do you wish the Super Squigs were multiplayer instead of just campaign?" You kind of answered that with for fun, I guess.
Yeah. It would give some purpose potentially. If you could have as many as you want, you could take the Night Shroud, and then you could give all of them Stalk, and then you could just charge like 5 of them into the enemy army.
That would be pretty funny. No.
Does that include the? By the way, does the question about campaign exclusive units? Does that include the Feral Wyvern and the Hydra?
Yes.
Because I think the Hydra might actually be quite nice as a. I'm not sure how good it is, but it's like a unit. It's a monster that has slightly more utility against infantry, as opposed to being a really specialized anti-large option. So I think that would see some use instead of like giants and Arachnaroks. And like, I mean, the Wyvern just has to be cheaper. It's 1500 gold, and it's basically a Manticore with poison and AP.
Wyvern mounts for the Black Orc Big Boss. And Feral Wyverns, should they be added to the roster, or is that overtuning an already strong roster? That is from Hammond and Ilmatar.
Well, yeah, Feral Wyverns, I just said, 1500 gold is nuts. That's so much more expensive than a Manticore. Not that Manticores are the benchmark for unit pricing, but it gives you a sense.
Yeah.
And they have bigger hitboxes than Manticores. They're not as like squeaky. They can't squeak out of situations. I suspect the Black Orc Big Boss on a Wyvern mount would just be too expensive. Like, because he's going to cost. I mean, if a Feral Wyvern is 1500, he must cost more than that. So he won't be good, because he'll just cost as much of a dragon and won't have breath attacks. Same with any of the other characters. Like, unless you really lower the cost, it's just not going to be worth it.
Gotcha. Are Snotling pump wagons ever worth bringing? Ilmatar and Artisan Tech Priest West.
Don't think so. I don't even know. Pump wagons are weird. They cost 450, and everyone was like, "This is the most broken thing ever," and they had to. I think they changed it even before. They changed it really quickly.
Yeah,
And then it was 500, and then all of a sudden, no one ever took them. Like, you could form them into like some silly blobs, but it's still not very good. Like, you can. They're sort of okay against like Tomb Kings. You'd probably make them kind of okay into Skaven. But do I bring them in any of my like top builds against any faction? No.
Would a Snotling unit be viable as a cheaper chaff, like an infantry Snotling, or would that be too worthless? That's from Hammond.
Probably not that good, because greenskins usually want to win with infantry, not hold with infantry, to protect other assets. when would it, the only times when it could be useful is if it either had high leadership. I have a feeling on tabletop at some point they were unbreakable, at least in some of the editions, because they were a swarm. That would be useful, obviously. Or if they had like an even higher entity count than a goblin, and therefore charge the war even faster.
400 Snotlings.
They're in, lads! Whoa! Black Orcs get pumped.
That's so weird now that I've been thinking about that, and that it's just like goblins charge it so quickly, but orcs don't. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's fine.
Maybe it's like, oi, those Snotlings is getting all the kills. We'll show them.
Let's get in there. That okay?
Embarrassing, lads.
That could be good. They charge it super fast, but then they have a passive that like they can't get affected by the Wa. So then like everybody else in the army just starts to perform way better because the Snotlings are not running away, and it's like, oh well, now we need to try hard.
Yeah.
This is a personal favorite question of mine. From me, obviously, because of course I would love it. How do you fix giants, dude? They suck so bad on every roster they're on.
That's a shit question.
Dude, it's the best question.
No, it's I don't know how you fix giants. I think the best thing I can think of is give them good splash damage. So that, because what's the basic problem with giants? They don't have much use except when they're in combat with an expensive single entity, but they are slower than almost every single entity in the game. And if they're not killing an expensive single entity, they just like kill 2 spearmen per hit, and it takes them like 15 seconds to do every hit. And then they get like knocked over by something as stupid as like a Vargol for a Gorbel could probably knock over a giant, and then it's take like 3 minutes getting up and sort of scratching their ear. It's like, yeah, they're just specialized at doing something in terms of their melee stats that their speed never really allows them to do. So the only time you see them is in like in a tight boxy build where you have snares to try and let them do stuff. I do sometimes use them into lizards, which is just betting on them bringing 2 stegodons. And then if they have got 2 stegodons, they can trade okay. But yeah, they should have more splash, because then if they can't kill a single entity, they can at least like crush a unit of infantry pretty quickly. And they're like their unit card says anti-infantry, but they're not at all.
They don't have any anti-infantry stats.
Yeah, and their animations are awful when it comes to fighting infantry. So I think that's what you do. They'd still be sort of niche because they won't have missile resistance and they have low armor. But I think they'd be kind of okay if they did good damage to infantry. Like they'd be more useful against counts, and they'd at least be like a thing that people would want to like take a wide archer line against you.
Mm-hmm. There was a question in the chat really quick from just a series of letters. I've watched a lot of Warhammer 2 tournaments, messed around a bit with Quick Battle before Vampire Coast were nerfed. I like playing greenskins in campaign. Are they a bad option to get back into multiplayer?
No, I think they're a good question. Good faction to get into multiplayer. Like they have relatively even matchups. They're something you can first pick without getting into a horrible matchup, which is always nice. And they can be played without really complicated niche styles, but still have some interesting ways of playing if you want to use them. Like you can just rush with a lot of infantry and skirmish cab if you want to. But if you want to their lesser used units. They have different playstyles. They can use like foot archers. They can use artillery builds. So yeah, I think they're a good faction to get into multiplayer with.
Do you want to say hi to the stream or just interrupt us?
Hello.
Okay. Hi, Grace. Sorry, Grace didn't know we were interviewing.
That's all right.
How dare she? Normal goblin archers or night goblin archers? I'm guessing since you said normal goblin archers are trash, you would take night goblin over them?
No, because night goblin archers is even more trash.
Wow.
It's 100 gold, and what you get is poison. And it's like, you know what the greenskin roster really struggles with? It's poison archers, because it's not like every greenskin army has several poison spider riders running around at all times. And yeah, they have. It's just 100 extra gold for something that will die just as easily to like one scab scrath or whatever it is.
Gotcha.
One wind spell. A few volleys of arrows because of their terrible leadership.
And their tight formation.
Yeah. High entity count, low HP. Well, actually medium HP because of low HP per entity.
Yeah. And Hammond asks, in the lore, forest goblins pray to a big spider goddess instead of Gork and Mork. If CA gave them their own spider goddess magic, what would it be so it adds spells that the greenskins need?
So I don't know about making it lore friendly because I don't know that much about the spider magic and lore. I mean, it's probably not even a thing. But what do greenskins need in terms of magic? I think the top thing to make them more interesting would be a nice single target heal. So that would instantly open up all the lord options other than Grom as being more viable.
They could call it like anti-venom.
Yeah, it's just like you can take Wurzag, but then you'd also take him with like a spider shaman. If people just try and snipe Wurzag before the fight starts with like missiles or like waystalkers or whatever, you can at least heal him. Same like Azhag, like if you take some damage, you can heal him.
Oh, dude, what about anti-venom as a spell, like, cancels any effects on a character? So if you get netted, you can, like, anti-venom and break out.
That'd be nice. That'd be an interesting mechanic. It'd be like a dispel system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a nice ability. I mean, apart from that, what do greenskins lack in terms of magic? Summons. But I don't think giving greenskins summons is really... It'd be good, it'd be strong, but I don't think they really wildly need it.
You could give them a worthless summon, like the Vargolf summon.
Yeah.
Like, just
make it bad. It would be the spider summon, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but make it an Ragnarok spider. And it's like...
It'd be the hatchlings.
Yeah, that'd be the good one. The bad one would be the Ragnarok spider, and it's like, cool, get this value out of it in 16 seconds. It loses. But I'm not against it.
The other thing that would be nice would be like a wind spell rather than an explosion spell. Because at the moment the big war magic, like it's a bit uninteractive because no matter how your opponent is like deploying, you'll hit like one unit unless he's accidentally stacked two units on top of each other, which is just him making a mistake. Like, you can't punish like a tight box very well with greenskin magic. So if you had like a wind spell other than Curse of the Bad Moon, you could like a burning head or like a pendulum. One of those fun spells.
Yeah, but spider themed. So like
spider themed.
From the sky.
Spider. It's like Curse of the Bad Moon, but it has AP, and the spider runs around.
Yeah, but it uses the pendulum. It uses the pendulum animation, but it's like a spider hanging from the sky, and as it flies around, it's just
down on a web.
Yeah, and it's like
That's
flinging
like
its limbs around,
hanging from the moon.
Yeah, see, We're game designers,
Yeah.
dude.
Oh god, you cast a bad moon.
I did cast it, and it did okay. On a very dumb high elf formation where they went with the box rather than the line.
Yeah, that's the trouble. I mean, the main problem with it is who has like expensive unarmored infantry? Oh, it's Savage Orc Biggins. So suddenly, you have a spell that does damage to your own units,
Yeah.
but isn't that good against a lot of enemy units.
In the chat, AS, again, just a series of letters, asked, is there a non-meme reason to take a lord that isn't Grom or Wurzag? We talked about that in the lord section, so you can go back to that. Because, I mean, we talked about that for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, just trying to get through 107 questions. What are some of your favorite non-meta half-meme greenskin units that you sometimes consider taking in big boy tournaments? Hammond. Is there anything non-standard that you actually think is good?
I'd say depends how meme we're talking. Like squig hoppers are ones you don't see very much, but which I do take in tournaments. Yeah, the strategy is just I talked about it before. Just try and route things very quickly. That's sort of a fun unit you can take. Everything else is pretty niche, like wolf chariots against Skaven. You sometimes see the swamp things just as a way of bringing terror. I sometimes use a nasty scroll or two against counts, but that's fairly rare. No, a lot of the meme units are just... The proper meme units are terrible, like Savage Up Boar Boy Biggins, or like, yeah, Teeth Robbers are terrible, River Trolls are absolutely terrible, Squig Heads are terrible, Biggin is terrible. I've seen the Biggin used against Lizardmen in actually successfully. That was pretty strange. But that only works against the right build. You're basically hoping for like a hard temple guard box, and then the rock throws actually do something.
Is the Biggin good at sniping chariot characters like a cannon? Is it ever worth taking? Real Human Being and Malverde.
I haven't used it that much. I have to admit, it's that bad. I don't think it's good against chariots because I think it will just miss a lot. It's not precise enough.
It misses a lot.
Yeah. I think the only time I've really seen it used is against like Lizardman Temple Guard boxes. And I suppose you could probably... I've seen people try and use it against counts, but I wouldn't recommend that. Yeah, it's just bad, to be honest. Like, if you just have two characters, like two horse characters, you can kill the Biggin without suffering any damage. Because you just charge it from behind, then wait for it to turn around, and you charge it with the other one from the other direction. And it takes too long to turn around to ever hit either of them. Oh, it's garbage.
Artisan Tech Priest West asks, what are the best 3 matchups for the Rogue Idol, and what would the builds even look like? And I ask a follow-up question, is there a way to make it actually good?
No. So this is the non-ROR, like, because I said the ROR can be used against Lizardmen.
Yeah, just Rogue Idols.
If you had to say one, maybe counts, because you get +4 leadership, and you form like a stupid box, and you hope that they didn't bring any black coaches. You try and bring some snares, and just stand in like an infantry box. Maybe add in a giant. People used to use it against Beastmen, but it's just still just a way to throw that matchup, I think. If I had to guess, maybe Chaos. Again, you're just like countering like one specific build, which is like them taking a bunch of chosen with great weapons, which isn't the normal way Chaos to use it, like play that matchup. But I could see it maybe getting some value. Yeah. It's just bad.
It's
It's just bad.
It's too slow.
Yeah.
And then the last thing on the units. Trolls and river trolls both lag behind stone trolls. How can they be brought up to speed? This is from me.
And river trolls, they need to have the same weapon strength as at least a normal troll. They have 80. Normal trolls have 100. Stone trolls have 120. So, yeah, that just makes river trolls instant trash. Because they're more expensive. And like the thing is supposed to be that they lower melee defense and they have quite good melee defense, but like monstrous infantry don't rely on melee defense. They rely on like standing behind their infantry and not getting hit very much due to how animations work. So how would you do it? They would need, you basically need more armor, but then you're just turning them into stone trolls. So other than making them like stone trolls, it's quite hard to see how you make them better.
Yeah,
I would say like normal trolls have some applications, like having like one unit against counts isn't bad because they can't shoot them anyway, and they don't have like lots of magic damage. They still like block up certain counts units. But yeah, I mean it would just have to be armor or cost, I think.
Gotcha.
Anything else that just get focused down.
Well, 3 rogue idols beat an AI poorly used vampire count army, so I think they're officially the best. All right, memes.
Oh, let's do it.
Okay. Oh god. Gork or Mork cries free.
Mork.
Why can't I find any purple orcs? Artisan Tech Priest West.
God. Because it's purple and green just doesn't go very well as a color scheme.
Boys.
Can you imagine that?
Boys or lads? F and G.
Boys or lads? Don't even know. Boys. I think boys. Yeah, let's go.
Prostegma from Hammond.
What?
It's a quote from Age of Mythology.
Okay.
Did you ever play that?
I did play Age of Mythology.
Hell yeah, dude.
Prostegma.
Vulme.
Is that like what one of the Greek units says or something?
Yeah, they're peasants. If you ever click on them. If you could give one mount to the River Troll Hag, what would it be, Hammond?
I think I'd prefer it to be a mount for Grom.
Perfect.
Grom mounting it, being carried around on its back, jiggling around. Happy days.
Would you want to taste Cygor milk if it was real, Hammond?
No.
Me either, buddy. There's a little wah and a big wah. Why is there no medium wah, Hammond?
Because it's too complicated.
What?
There's no like medium between orcs and gobbos. There should be a tiny wah though, which is the snotlings.
Tiny wah.
Tiny wah, wah, wah.
Is you guys going to speak proper orky during this interview? And can there ever be enough dagger? Artisan Tech Priest.
I've already missed my opportunity to speak proper orc.
Yeah.
So I won't do it for the rest.
Yeah, we messed it up.
You should have asked that question at the start.
Dude, that would have been a long 3-hour interview.
Oh, God.
What holds the alliance between orcs and goblins together, F and G?
Bullying.
Hell yeah. How should people who misspell and incorrectly format wah be punished? Way.
I wish I thought of something funny in advance. They should be fed to Gobbler.
Perfect. Are orcs better in Warhammer, Skyrim, or World of Warcraft, Hammond?
I think Warhammer. I like how comic they are.
In Skyrim, they're kind of bland. Like they're just kind of people with green skin, and it's like okay, but there's nothing really that cool about you.
But goblins are better than orcs. Like they're just funnier.
That's like
More characterful.
I like orcs better as characters in general, but as soon as they start talking, it's like God, goblins are just so funny. Like goblins.
Mr. Stabby! Where's best?
Chase it!
Where's Gobbers?
Yeah, they're great. F&G wants to know where does he send his application for the Night Goblin War Boss Appreciation Club?
Down into a deep dark cave.
That's
But
actually
you'll have to find it yourself.
that's a decent answer. Why is River Troll Rush the only viable way to play greenskins, Butcherbird?
Because that's the only way to lose with them, because that's how good they are.
All right. Why is it that Human Boy can never win Skaven versus Greenskins when you think it's a roughly 45% matchup for them, Houseplant?
Well, you tell me. You tell me.
It's called being bad.
I think, it requires... I don't think it's about boxing. Which I think is... I think it's about, either sort of single entity shenanigans or getting good snipes off. Maybe it's because you were playing it with the old boar chariots, which did make it kind of tough.
Yeah. I also just am bad.
No.
Who is your least favorite RTK member who mains Empire? This is from me. Absolute least favorite RTK member.
No, it's... I have no least favorite RTK members.
And it's Houseplant.
I hate you all equally.
That's fair. But you hate Houseplant slightly more.
Slightly more than... Yeah, because he also likes dwarves.
Yes. Why do greenskins deserve my hate? The Phoenix King.
Because they epitomize the stuff matter. The skirmish, cav, and infantry matter.
Just have more stuff.
More stuff.
Do
Stuff is good.
Do Grom players deserve happiness? Real human being.
Do happy players deserve Grom? The answer is yes, they do. Because Grom makes everyone happy.
Worst answer. Gork or Mork? Gandalf. You already answered, but let's see if you get it right twice in a row.
Walk.
Fair. Who is the best human boy? Is it yes, yes, no, no, or maybe, maybe? Hammond. There are 3 people on my Discord named that.
I think it's none of the above.
Fair. I can't blame you on that one. Well...
Yes, yes. Human boy, sandwich, sandwich.
Yay. Ooh, 2 sandwiches stacked on top of each other makes a sandwich.
Or is it just how Skaven talk about sandwiches? Because it's it's already 2 things in itself.
I don't know. Why is Real Human Being the coolest person in Human Boy's Discord? That's from Real Human Being, also known as Human Boy No No. So he already said you suck. Sorry.
You do suck.
Yeah, that's fair though. Jay Phoenix asks, when is the coup? I forgot the last date you gave me.
It's already happened, but no one knows. Keeping it secret.
All right.
I'm already sitting on the Iron Throne.
Oh, that coup. That has been a while. What has Azhag been getting up to IRL since he left the game? Because he's not meta anymore. I heard he opened a sports bar, got a pet squig, etc. J Phoenix.
He's actually he's indulging in his music career, which is linked to his choice of magic. So it's all death metal.
FNG asked you a real question in the corner, and it's actually nice. If you could win one greenskin matchup forever at the cost of losing another one forever, what 2 matchups would you choose? Like you auto win one, but you sacrifice auto losing another.
God, that's horrible. Like, 'cause that's just stopping the game being a game. Because I would always get banned from that matchup, and I would always have to ban the other one. So I mean, you just pick. Actually, no. You pick the one. You just pick the ones that are the least fun to play. I guess.
I would say always win the greenskin mirror.
Always.
And
then you never have to play it.
Yeah, and then I would always lose.
Well, you pick like always win counts, because that actually changes things a lot. And you'd always lose Lizardman.
Mm.
And then you just ban one of those.
Are all greenskins equally green, or is Grimgor the greenest? Ilmatar.
I think green isn't really a color. It's a state of mind. And Grimgor is greener than a squig. So I will say yes.
Yes.
Yes is my answer.
Why doesn't Bob read previous questions? J Phoenix.
Because of Bob. Just Bob.
What be love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more. From Real Human Being.
Okay. I think it goes, baby, don't hurt me. No wah.
No wah.
No wah.
What percentage of Total War Warhammer players are just orcs in real life? Real Human Being.
I don't think any of them are. That's the weird thing. I think they're more like goblins, actually. Weirdly enough. Like, cause the dwarves are all actually like dwarves.
Yeah.
If not in terms of size, then like general like grumpiness. The elves are all kind of arrogant, like their factions.
Of course.
But like, I feel like most of them are like orky like players, are more like, I don't know, like chaos or Norska kind of style. I feel like the greenskin players are more like, well, the reality is they're scummy meta tryhards in many cases. But the classic mains, they're more like comedy characters. Like I prefer the goblins, and like who else is famous for doing greenskins for ages? Like Slade X. He's not an orc. He's like a wacky gobbo on mushrooms kind of character.
A gobbo.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's more the start of the greenskin mains.
All right, we got 40 minutes. We're gonna do this. We got this.
God.
I know. Like, I'm trying to finish before 40 minutes. Who's the best Real Human Being?
That's what he said.
Yes. I'm walking past that one. We're just going right past that. All right. Who's the best?
What was the question?
Who's the best?
Oh, Grimgor.
Yay.
We should have done these questions when I had more enthusiasm.
Yeah. It's RTK's yearly holiday. Every member is flying together on a plane. The plane is about to crash. You have 3 parachutes. What 3 RTK members do you save? Chasing rainbows.
I take them all in case one of them is faulty.
Goddamn right.
In classic Spider Shaman fashion, just run away in a cowardly way.
What would Boris Johnson sound like if he did a wah houseplant? Probably like a whoopee cushion.
Wah, 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 wah,
Wah.
wah.
Which would you rather face in a bumper car deathmatch? Grom the Paunch, Volkmar, Kazric One Eye, Ikit Claw, Arkin the Black. Jeremy.
Clearly Arkin.
Yeah, probably Arkin. Like, look at all those. It's
Weedy. Like his chariot would just fall apart. It's just made of crumbly old bone.
Why are greenskins? Because they're funny. Real human being.
So why are the greenskins?
Why are the greenskins? And I answered because they're funny.
Oh yeah.
Is the fishy titty muncha thicker than a bowl of oatmeal? Hammond. I mean, like, if you're talking about literal density, yeah.
She's pretty thick. The real question is, how thick is too thick?
About 4 steps before that. The last of the memes that aren't Satsuma specific, some of those are also memes. Jeremy has been told to simp for the Fae, Ariel, Slostra Daerfon, Isabella, and Marathi, but why instead should people simp for the River Troll Hag?
She's a real woman. She's not one of those, like, you know, size 0 models. She's got curves. She's you know, she's not one of those little pretty girls. She's her own. She's got problems, but you know, she speaks her mind. She doesn't take any bullshit. She's
there you
an
go.
independent woman.
That actually takes us right into one of your specific questions. We're in the last category. Fuck, marry, kill. Grom, River Troll Hag, and a Squig Hopper from Dactor.
Oh. Well, you can't kill Grom, so that just isn't. It's not even an option. So I'd probably marry Grom.
That would leave
you probably fuck the Squig Hopper, wouldn't you?
Yes! Yes! That is the perfect answer.
It's the only answer.
He deserves it. He would be wild. I can tell you that.
Yeah, he would be wild. He'd be pretty wild.
That'd be a good time.
Like it's unless you just because it's just so not like any person at all. It's not as disgusting as the original Hag. It's like a parody of an actual woman. But without you, just like it's just I'm just sticking my dick in a space hopper.
God, I wasn't ready for that ending. What's your favorite mushroom-based dish, or do you abstain because it's cannibalism? This is a mixture of questions from Cries Free, Real Human Being, and Zyphos.
My favorite mushroom-based dish, I think it's like a creamy pasta with like those little like is it like morels, the fancy little mushrooms.
Yes,
that would be my favorite with some Parmesan cheese and plenty of freshly ground black pepper. I don't abstain because I don't mind cannibalism.
That's smart. Mushrooms are good for you. Honestly, like Real Human Being, I'm just acknowledging you asked these, but we really talked about it earlier. Rank all the spells in the little Wa and rank all the spells in big Wa. And we're running a little short on time, so we did talk about that, but just doing that. Real Human Being asks, rank greenskins as a faction overall, meaning on a tier list, I think. And then follow up, what is their one greatest strength? You said infantry. What's their worst weakness? So tier list and weakness.
Tier list. I think they're up in the top tier, but not better than the other top tier factions. So they're probably up there with Lizardmen, Wood Elves. Actually, I don't know about. They were worse than Beastmen, like before that latest patch came out, because everyone was worse than Beastmen. So I'm not quite sure where I'd put them relative to Beastmen now. But like they're up there with the other like best factions because they only have 2 matchups that you really want to avoid. But they're not. Yeah, if you first pick them, you'll still go up with something that is at best even, and if you're counter picking, you won't get many completely broken matchups because people don't first pick high elves and dark elves anyway. Then what was the other question?
As a faction, what is their weakness?
Oh yeah. So strength is infantry. I think the weakness is it can be focusing damage onto kind of armored single entities, or like, yeah, particularly armored single entities, also like quick single entities, because what they're very good at is just like chomping through enemy multi-model units, because everything is quite efficient, but their own single entities are they struggle to catch enemy single entities, even though they can trade quite well into them if they have the chance to do that. Trolls can kind of beat up single entities, but if there's like, especially when it's factions with summons, the trolls will take a lot of damage from the chaff. So actually specifically like single entities on top of like very sticky stuff or like summons that they struggle with. And like their archers are they can be a bit easy to avoid with good single entity dodging. So I think it's that kind of difficulty focusing fire. You see it against Lizardmen, you see it against Counts. You see they struggle to kill like VC gunnery wights. They don't find it particularly easy to kill like dwarf engineers. They don't find it really easy to kill Volkmar. But yeah, they're quite good at spread damage throughout the whole army. But like their counters to like tanky single entities that are stacked on sticky summons or sticky units are kind of a bit roulette-y. Like if you take the single entities and they don't have them, you're in trouble. If you take loads of archers and they don't have loads of single entities, you can be in a bit of a tricky spot as well.
Gotcha. Orcs or goblins? Butcherbird asked. You said goblins. Just acknowledging I saw it. Talk about what's wrong with the new WA for 20 minutes. Jay Phoenix, Bob Tresh, and Loopy. Do you feel like you covered the WA?
I think we covered the WA.
Got it. F&G asks, what is the smartest and dumbest greenskin unit / character?
Oh, is that like...
Scarsnick's got to be the smartest.
Yeah, he's got to be the smartest. And the dumbest is like squig herds, I think. I think they're worse than trolls. Like, they can't talk. They just... Yeah. They rampage very quickly.
Age of Empires 2 or Total War Warhammer 2 from me?
Oh, Age of Empires 2, clearly. Much better balanced game.
Yes.
But unfortunately, you have to practice really hard and get really try hard to get have any chance of competitive success. Whilst Warhammer, you can kind of be fairly good, come up with some fun strategies and rely on luck. So I have an actual chance playing it competitively.
Vertical Cliff asked if greenskins are smellier than vampire counts or tomb kings. They're probably smellier than tomb kings.
Yeah, definitely smellier than how much do these...
I mean, they're like rotting.
Actually, I don't even know how smelly greenskins are. You sort of imagine them as smelly, but like, I guess mushrooms kind of smell. But I'm not sure if they sweat. Like plants don't sweat, really.
No idea.
Bit of a mystery, but pretty worse than tomb kings, better than counts because they're not just piles of rotting flesh.
Real Human Being asked, is there ever a reason to take the Foot of Gork?
Yeah. So it can delete like an expensive cav unit if you get a Wurzag effigy on it. So again, that's one of the ways you can try and win the VC matchup, and why I sometimes take Wurzag there, is you hope that they take the Chillgeists, which can be really good into greenskins, and then you just, if you get the right cast with an effigy followed by Foot of Gork, you can basically remove them.
Oof.
And yeah, it's a bad matchup, so you need to rely on getting one like nice, impactful trade. Yeah, and it's kind of a hedge against like elite infantry, which you didn't used to need because of Fanatics, but maybe it's slightly better now.
I'm gonna lump these two together. I'm bad at greenskins. How do I get better from Jeremy? And how do I improve my skirmish cav micro from houseplant? Because I think those might be related.
Yeah. How do you get better? Take the right build, which is safest way in most matchups. Is just like spam Savage or Pig and 6 skirmish cav, Grom, and like a caster. And a little bit of extra like cheap mobility or some trolls. Then have then have enough control groups that you can make sure you control all those units, because you're gonna have a 20 stack. And yeah, just charge the front line. On the advance, you screen with your skirmish cav so that they can't shoot anything important. Then, once the fighting is started, you move your skirmish cav or other mobility around the back. You wait for the war to proc, and then when the war comes, you charge your skirmish cav into the back of their formation and take out their valuable assets. That's if they have more range than you. If you have more range, you just troll them with your skirmish cav and spirit leech things. And that's fun and interactive.
It's very fun and interactive.
Yeah. How do you improve skirmish cav micro? God, just have them on control groups and move them whenever. Just move them sideways whenever stuff's about to shoot. Pay attention to like the range. So if you're up against something with like shorter range than you, like the Chaos or Norska ones, you can just sort of dance on the edge. Whilst if you're up against something with longer range than you, you need to try and somehow close the distance. And one of the ways of doing that is to like try and encircle the longer range skirmish cav on two sides, so that they can't just keep backing off for you and maintaining their range edge. What else? And obviously, if their skirmish cav doesn't have 360, you can charge it and make the skirmish mode proc, which can also sometimes use that to stop their skirmish cav dodging. But that's it's not usually that useful. They can override it. I don't know. Just keep doing it endlessly and you'll get good.
Chasing Rainbows asks, what's the best spell in the greenskin roster? Probably Spirit Leech.
It's kind of tricky, to be honest. It's a cross between like Vindictive Glare, Brainburster, and Spirit Leech. It just depends what you're up against. So if you're worried about cav or just infantry, you need Spirit Leech. Like Brainburster is nice utility because you can blow up like cheap units with the normal cast, and if there's something armored and expensive, the overcast has pretty good AP. So it's kind of nice little utility spell. And obviously Glare. Glare is just, I think it's the most important spell, either Vindictive Glare or Gaze of Mork, because it lets you basically screen out like other people trying to cheese you with like things like ranged heroes on eagles or like flying casters or things like that, which is quite nice.
In
lets you kill artillery.
In campaign, who has the best WoW, real human being? You indicated you haven't really played with the new WoW system.
I have no idea.
If I remember correctly, I think it's Skarsnix is pretty good. I think. What is your favorite greenskin build you've ever seen? Whether it's for being just cool, funny, or really strong, or whatever. Real human being.
I think my favorite way of playing it is maybe the way people used to do dwarfs, which was to you would use Night Shroud, and you'd form like a little ball in your deployment zone at the start, and then you would stealth the whole army, and it's like a ball of like squigs and trolls and everything, and then you would run up without being detected, and then just like descend on them madly.
That's great.
Then gyros became more popular, which kind of can counter that. And the war changed, which completely killed it, because that one like initial charge of the squigs, you don't get your war off. So that build died, but that was like one of my favorites.
Hammond says, I've noticed I'm a bit too aggressive in most of my builds with other factions. Is greenskins good for me, even though my micro might not be top notch? So an aggressive, maybe not perfect player.
I mean, there's definitely a way of playing with greenskins that is just aggression. At the same time, it depends. Like sometimes with greenskins, you just want to be patient if you have more ranged. Keep using your spirit leeches. But it's not bad for an aggressive player. As long as you make sure you don't get too aggressive with the wrong units, like you like something like, I don't know, like boar cav, for example, are they're like a defensive cavalry unit rather than a one that you let get out of position and fight enemy cav on their own. But I think generally it's an okay faction to be aggressive with.
What models do you wish would get a visual update, Jeremy?
I don't give a shit.
All right. What is your favorite fruit?
I'm always zoomed out.
Oh, that would explain it. What's your favorite fruit and why is it the watermelon? Chasing rainbows.
It is not the watermelon. It's a Satsuma!
What?
Seriously. And why? Because I am one. Like, it's the only sentient fruit, so.
That's fair. What is the origin story of you being a Satsuma from XMTY?
Sadly, there isn't really a good one. Basically, I was trying to think of names that hadn't been taken and probably weren't going to be taken for some time. So I included Satsumas as a particularly random fruit. And like they are, I sort of paired it with vicious because they're like quite soft and squidgy. So like they're not vicious looking on the outside, but actually if you just get a bit of juice squirted in your eye, they're pretty damn vicious. So it's like a sort of a juxtaposition of opposites in terms of my name, like vicious versus a small soft fruit, but also it's like I'm not vicious on the outside, but I have like an apparent sort of friendly manner, sort of easygoing, laid-back manner, but at the same time I can also be quite sarcastic and brutal when the occasion demands it.
Oh, I know, my friend. I know. What is your favorite food, real human being? Is it a Satsuma, or do you actually have a different favorite?
I wouldn't eat Satsumas. That'd be cruel. I think I really like Masaka. Or just steak, actually. Just steak is better, yeah.
Steak is pretty good.
Would like probably a béarnaise.
Age of Mythology Definitive Edition or Troy Total War with more DLC and the collision bugs fixed. Hammond.
Probably Age of Mythology.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
Yeah. Troy is just no.
And then from me, and the final question. Some people may not know this about you, but you never really did Stone Troll and Grom abuse when they were super OP. Like, I'm not saying you've never played it in your life, but that's not really how you got your wins. How did you stay successful, and how do you think greenskin players should play now with all the nerfs? We talked about how they should play now, but what was the Satsuma up to when everyone else was spamming Stone Trolls?
Well, I feel like Greenskin's greatest strength is still their infantry, and that was always strong, even while Stone Trolls were strong. So I didn't feel like the style that I'd already learned before everyone started jumping on the Stone Troll bandwagon was just as viable as it always had been, I would say. And then I felt like Stone Trolls was so meta for a long time that if I ended up in a matchup where, you know, someone picked into it or let me counterpick them, I always had this suspicion that they wouldn't let that happen at a high level unless they had an answer to like Grom and 4 Stone Trolls. And like that, and I sort of found my own answers to it. So for example, like for quite a long time I was picking like Skaven blobs into that Stone Troll build before they nerfed Brood Horrors, and I don't think I ever lost against the Stone Troll build there. So like I think that build always had its weaknesses. Yeah, and playing the meta thing is always a little bit risky. And it's kind of brain dead.
Yeah. Well, we went for 2 hours and 46 minutes. I have 13 minutes to grab something to eat and then join Murphalurf on his stream. Well, I don't know. You don't really stream much, so I guess you don't have anything to plug. Anything you want to say to the lovely listeners?
Oh, God. I'm very much looking forward to playing my dinner card myself.
All right.
It's been a long time since lunch, but
thank you so much for doing this interview.
Wah
wah
wah wah wah.
See you, buddy.
See ya.
And for anybody else out there, I will very quickly after this post a poll in my Discord for the next faction we will do. I think we have all of the pros. Not all of them. All right, we have most of the pros. I want to interview right next to the names, so you can even see who the interview will be with, most likely. Go there, vote for that as soon as I hit this end button. Other than that, that's all I got. Go check out Murph's stream. I'll be on there in about 10 minutes. Later.